Hello, everybody. Welcome to Punch Kick Choke Chat. We're introducing one of our micro topics, since Suino and I did one of these already before, and we're going to do another one today. Since Suino and I have been training together for 30 years, primarily in Iaido, but we do lots of other cool shit together in martial arts and out of martial arts. And if you want to know more about the specifics of Sensei Suino or myself, you can go to any of our long format podcasts where you'll get a very long introduction about he and I and all our amazing ranks and accomplishments in martial arts. And but today the topic that we're going to get into and we're going to crack open is basically fitness and martial arts, and why should you do it? Is there any benefit? Like, why are we doing this? Sensei Suino, how you doing today?
Doing great. I love these chats, and it's just inspirational to be talking about fitness and martial arts. I'm headed to the dojo after this call anyway, but I'll have an extra charge from this conversation.
Yeah, I wrote down I knew we were going to talk about this, so I kind of journaled a little bit in case some of the specifics came up that we wanted to talk about. But anyway, what do you think? Why do you love it, and why does it relate to martial arts for you?
Yeah.
Help your martial arts.
Well, I don't know why I love fitness. It's part of that long road. Last time we talked a little bit about suffering and how if when you start a lot of things like push-ups, it feels like suffering. But if you do it long enough with the right mindset, you start recognizing the connection between being able to do a ton of push-ups and success in other areas, right? Being able to punch harder, having better cardio, whatever it might be. Do that long enough, you pair those two long enough, and even though there's effort in push-ups, it's not the opposite of fun. It becomes rewarding, and then you start looking for it, right? Like, okay, I did 50 push-ups yesterday, I'm gonna do 100 today. So the fitness, I'm using push-ups as an analogy for fitness. The fitness makes the martial arts better. It makes it more effective, it makes it more powerful, it makes it easier, and there's just this wonderful synergy between the two. So yeah, that's kind of like why I like it.
It's funny that you use push-ups, because I think that was one of the first things that we actually did together. Was we did that 100 who could do 100 push-up challenge, remember? And I think first we did like the 22 for 22 days, and then we amped that up. Like we did 22 for 22 days for I think it was for people who were suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And then we just kept amping it up. And I remember it was kind of funny because it was like, you did like 55 and I'm like, all right, I got to do 56. And so then I'd call you out on the social network. I did 57. And then 2 days later, you're like 62, 62, jack off. And then it just kept going back and forth. Right. And I remember I had a really bad cold. And then Samantha, my daughter, was sitting on the couch and she said, "Hey, Dad, Sensei Suino just posted a video. He just did 100. And I'm like, okay, get the phone out. You got to start counting.
Right.
But anyway, I know you're kind of different when it comes to fitness. Like, I agree with you on I don't like things to be the same. I like to change things up. I mean, for me, my background was lifting a lot of weights. I like to lift a lot of weights. I know you did as well. Lift a lot of heavy weights. And I'm sorry, that just got super boring to me. And now I don't like to do stuff like that. I still lift weights. I still like to lift heavy weights, but just not every day, all the time. I really like what it does for my body, but I like a little bit the anxiety, Sensei, of writing down a workout for myself that I'm like, I'm not sure if I can actually freaking do this. And then telling myself, okay, I'm going to do it in 55 minutes. And then sometimes I do it in 40 minutes. And then other times it's like an hour and 30 minutes later. And I'm like, this is the stupidest idea ever. But when it's done, I'm always glad that I put myself in an anxious state mentally and then burnt myself out physically. And I always feel better at the end. Like, I never feel disappointed, even if I didn't hit the goal. Like, it's mostly trying to reach the goal, not actually hitting the goal.
There's 100% connection between voluntarily putting yourself under stressful situations and then being better at them in life, right? But before we get to that, the physical part is so cool. As you described, back when we first met, I was lifting very heavy, and I'm actually finally writing a short book about that stuff to just get it off my plate. I did it; it was so successful. I learned from some incredible people, and just put on a massive amount of strength and muscle in a short period of time. I want to share that. But I like what you said about being anxious. You know, the form of lifting that I'm talking about now is the 1 rep max stuff. And when you are confronting this bar with, like, 425 pounds, and you've got to bench press that, there's a pressure there, right? There's an anxiety, like you described, which I really like. It's like putting yourself on a tightrope and going, can I make this? And then there's another cool thing that I wanted to talk about. When you are working close to your body's ability to endure it, I've been paying attention and noticing, like, your body gives you a little shot of adrenaline. Like, you can feel it differently. You get a heavy kettlebell and you're doing some squats with it, and you're like, oh, this is good exercise. And then you go to the next level and you do the next weight and you go, wait a minute, this feels different, right? You get this little charge. You're like, okay, that's where I need to be. As long as I can be safe, that's where I should be working. That's where I should be doing my judo. That's where I should do my sparring. Right up at that place where your body goes, holy shit, this is right up at my limits. Do you have a similar experience?
Yeah, but I just wonder if I got that in physical fitness from martial arts or the other way. And that's what we're kind of talking about now, right? Because when obviously I competed for a long time at a high level, and I know you did as well. We both competed internationally on some very big stages, which those types of goals require you have to train at that extreme level, or otherwise you're just wasting the gas money for the airfare, right? You're just wasting it. Because so on my side, I would say, I was a varsity athlete and I was always lifting for performance or doing exercise for performance. And now I almost think it's shifted a little bit. Like, my martial arts is bleeding into my physical fitness workouts, my conditioning workouts, to push myself, because I just don't feel the same if I go in and poke around for an hour and a half, just kind of poke around, right? It's like, this doesn't feel like martial arts to me, mentally or physically. And I want it to, because I love martial arts. So I agree with you, but I'm just not sure which way it goes for me. If I took that physical fitness and then moved it into my martial arts, I think it's probably the other way for me personally.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've been thinking about that a lot in my JMAC 18 workouts. 3 mornings a week, I do an 18-minute workout, and JMAC people join me. So that workout has to be something that they can all do. Like, I might be doing it with a 80-pound kettlebell, and they might have a 15-pound dumbbell, but they're doing some modification. But the point is, I can't just go crazy. I can't do barbell, straight bar squats or anything, because people don't have that setup. But what I can do is think about martial arts moves, right? I can think, okay, when I'm grappling with somebody and they pull me forward out of my posture, why would I fall out? Why would I not fall out? Like, how can I build that? Okay, let me get a kettlebell and make an exercise like that. And it not only has to match that, but it has to match, okay, what can people do at home? Like, some analogy for this. That's been hugely helpful. So it's like you said about martial arts and fitness bleeding into each other. The JMAC 18 and stuff like that is directly, it's dug from the mine of martial arts movements.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's not straight bar workouts. It's just, it's functional, but functional plus martial arts.
Right. And that's one of the things I really, I just absorbed from you. Not only the JMAC 18, like, I've put my own little twist on it, but the one thing I haven't put on it, that's my twist, that I just steal from you unabashedly, is trying to find movements for either cardio or muscular endurance that will directly relate into the martial arts. So like you said, like, it's not a bench pressing thing. The JMAC 18 in those 6 exercises, how do you formulate these 6 exercises that are going to help you with grappling, or help you with striking, or getting down to push somebody off you, or rolling over and getting back on your feet to throw a punch? That's one of the things that I really love about the JMAC 18 and the way we're starting to formulate these things. In my kickboxing classes, I've actually started to pull some of that in as well.
Give me an example.
My kickboxing class that I teach 2 times a week, it's tough, but I mean, you work at your own level, right? So so we do 13 rounds, 3 minutes on, 20 seconds off in between a round. And, it builds, right? So we'll do 2 rounds of bouncing, then a round of just punching, then a round of just kicking, then punching, kicking combo, trying to work in the different types of kicks. And then accumulates to, like, the next couple of rounds are like 2 jabs across, a front kick, a roundhouse kick, a side kick for like 3 minutes. You're doing this. And then we start going back down again, back down to, just punching, just kicking. But I've developed 3 versions of that workout, and I put in JMAC 18 type of exercises into a round. So it's like this 3rd round, you're doing clean press lunges with a kettlebell. Because it's 3 minutes, you gotta pick the appropriate weight. So, you know, if in the JMAC 18, I'm using a 50-pound kettlebell, and that one I'm using a 20-pound kettlebell, right? So that's why every 3rd round. Then I have one where it's every other round is conditioning. That one sucks. It's a really bad idea. And then I have one where we do 6 conditioning exercises, but it's like each round is a minute and a half of kicking and punching and a minute and a half of conditioning. And then everybody hates the last round to call it the Rocky round because they make them do nothing but bounce and lunge, but they got to hold their arms above their head for the entire 3 minutes.
Love it.
And they hate it, but it's fun.
Mm-hmm. What I like about that's a really direct analogy. It kind of takes me where I wanted to go next, which is if you're going to do self-defense or you're going to do martial arts, if you're struggling physically to do the simplest thing, right? Like throw a front kick and a reverse punch in kickboxing. Come on. I mean, right? Like your first, whatever period it is for somebody, depending on how fit they are when they come in, their first 3 months or 6 months should be devoted to making those movements very easy. They can do them repetitively a lot. So they're not struggling with those, trying to do the next level stuff. The sad thing for me is how many martial artists dabble in it. You know, so a year later, that stuff is still kind of challenging for them, right? It means they're never going to really enjoy, well, they might enjoy what they're doing, that's fine, but there's so many levels. And for self-defense, right? If you get attacked on the street and you are having trouble formulating your front kick reverse punch, you know, like that just doesn't go. So that fitness part and that repetition of those movements, that stuff goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah, and the repetition of movement, Sensei, as we're talking about that, I mean, your body will actually break down, I think, if you just, all you do is jab, cross, punch, kick, kata. You need other things like, you know, your hamstrings have to be strong enough, and that requires other things for you to do. And that's all, you know, we're talking about this like it's something new, but that's been pervasive in martial arts forever. Like in Goshu karate, you know, the vases filled and they carry those around in Sanchin to strengthen things. And, you know, I can't remember the names of them, but, you know, they got those maces where they're like swinging it around. Like we're talking about it like we're doing something new and cool, but it's been around like since the 1600s.
Well, it is cool. It's still cool. Maybe not so new. There's probably new methods, but you know, the human body needs to bear weight, right? That's how the human nervous system and the joints and everything else know what it's up to. And I don't know the science. I just know how it works. I know a little bit of the science, but you know, you got to tell your nervous system, hey, this is a heavy weight to bear. And then everything kind of aligns behind that. Obviously, you can't do it if you have an injury or if there's some counterindication, but to the extent you can do it safely, you have to bear weight. And you know, the things we do in jujitsu and karate, a lot of those are not great for your joints. So when you bear weight, right, that's part of the healing process.
I agree. And I think I've said this before, while the world might be way more complex today, then it's also way easier, physically, specifically. Like it's just easier. The way we convey ourselves around in cars and in planes and how we get our food now. And like, it's just so much easier than being a farmer in like 1800, having to clear all these rocks out of a field and hook this huge plow up and then have your horse drag this while you're holding it. And then you got to put the seeds in, and then you got to and you got no mechanics to actually do it. So humans did this stuff to survive and I think for life in martial arts, it's good that we do it. The most healthy people are the ones who do this.
Yeah. You know, what's fascinating is that old school farmers, the ones that are still functioning today, they end up being really unhealthy as they get old because all they have is the work component.
That's right.
They don't have the structured health component. Like if they also did yoga, had a nutritionist, had a day or two a week to rest and recover, they probably live longer and live a healthier life. But a lot of the farmers I know, man, they get really racked in their 50s and 60s because all they have is that physical stuff. And we have to be cognizant of that in martial arts too, right? You need to balance the stress and the rest to have a healthy diet of exercise and recovery.
Hey, can I ask you a question? Something I've kind of observed. since in the Kitchener dojo, since I've started doing things like the JMAC 18, which we call the LMAF 24, but anyway, we got to brand them this in our own communities, but and the kickboxing things, I've got a lot of people who were not traditionally martial artists who, during the pandemic, they started doing this out of boredom. And it almost like it's been a string to get people into the dojo, because when they think of martial arts, they think, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want somebody punching me in the face, throwing me over their shoulder and smashing me into the ground. But this virtual, okay, I'm going to do, and then all of a sudden they're now in the dojo training the same. And then they meet the martial arts people and they're like, oh, I'd like to try that too. And it's been a bridge for a number of people to actually get their butts into the dojo and not be afraid of martial arts.
Love it. And we don't really have that because we're not doing it the same way. We're not teaching live fitness classes, right? Our JMAC 18 is virtual. It's a pretty small group that does it. If I taught a fitness related class in the evenings once or twice a week, I think we would have that same string that you have. I love that thought though, especially because for a lot of people, right, their first few weeks or first couple of months in the martial arts is when they get hurt, when they're most anxious and everything else. And if they can come in and go, well, I'm just getting fit, and then all of a sudden they've got 90% of the fundamental moves under control, then that next step to the training is going to be safer. It's going to be easier for them. It's going to have less anxiety. I love that.
Safer, I think, is a key, right? One of the things I love about the JMAC 18 is do what you can with what you got, right? I like that mentality. And I like it because we have a mutual friend / student martial artist who he would often ask me, what are you doing right now, Sensei? Like, what's your workout? What was your last week? And I'd tell him, and then he'd go try and do that. And he would inevitably injure himself and come in and say, I hurt myself. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you hurt yourself because you're jumping into the deep end. And it's taken me like 15 years to build my body and my mind up to kind of do this capacity. But JMAC 18, the beauty of it is it lets you build that capacity. Like from day one, you can make that workout super hard for yourself with a lightweight, extra reps, pushing yourself without a lot of risk of injury, unless you're a total dumbass, right? Like,
yeah. Which takes us to another word I wanted to mention that you and I have talked about a lot together, which is the word of scaffolding, right? Is you can't do what you do on day one or even year one, right? I'm an older guy, but most people can't do what I do either. And I don't even think of it as that big a deal, except that I've been doing it so long, when you start to think about it, I'm only doing 20 hours a week of martial arts classes and approximately 5 hours a week of fitness related stuff. Like, that's not so much, right? But the fact is, it's all scaffolded, right? It's like it becomes normal for you, and then you raise it up. And at the same time, we've created this mental structure where we understand how to go about doing that, right? What do I add? Okay, add a little bit more weight so it's safe, right? Add a little more complexity to the drill. Maybe once in a while you overdo it, right? I invented some weird double kettlebell workout a couple of weeks ago, and I did one move and I went, oh, you know what? That's probably a bad idea. Like, not in a bad idea, like it's going to make me fit, but like I'm going to get a hernia from it or something. So you back off, right? But if you can do that and then raise things, after a while, your game just becomes so complex and so interesting, and also keeps you so much more fit than the average human being. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that for like 4 months now, I've been doing BJJ, right?
Yeah.
I don't attribute, okay, so I gained a lot of things from doing karate and iaido that I bring to BJJ, especially for my mind and for my physicality. But one thing that everybody I roll with says to me is, you're so like hard and strong. You're so fast. You're so explosive. And in my mind, I'm always saying like, man, I'm just trying to do technique right now.
Right.
I haven't even, like you, I'm 51. I haven't even gotten started yet. Like you haven't even seen this yet. I think that side of it comes from that physicality comes from the workout, like the physical workouts, not because I know lots of deadly fighters, and I'm sure you do too, deadly judo practitioners who they're actually not like super physically fit. Like they'll kill you, they'll smash you into the earth, like but they're They're not going to go do a Tough Mudder or anything like that. Like they would fail at that.
I want to get back to something about what you said about your workouts, but that just reminds me of one of my judo teachers in Yokohama. This guy who was like in his late 50s, heavy smoker, overweight, right? I'd go down the steps to the dojo and he would slide the screen back and look out and the smoke would just pour out of that room, right? You come up and to work out with him, you bow to him, you grab his gi and you're just like, oh my God, he smokes so much, and his favorite food was pound cake. Like, and then he would just kick your ass, right? It's like, God damn it, why is this happening right now? So I know exactly what you're talking about. That skill is one thing, right? The fitness is another. What I think is really enviable about you is the fact that you can get under a bar with 225 pounds and do a ton of deadlifts or whatever it might be. Like, look at that. And one would go, oh, that guy's going to be muscle bound. He's not going to be able to move fast. And then we see you doing, karate stuff, throwing strikes and kicks. And you're just like, that's ridiculous. It's so fast and so light and efficient, right? It's not driven by muscle boundness at all. So to be able to do that, I don't know that's a skill everybody has.
I think it is, Sensei, if your fitness, like I'm a martial artist, that's what I am. I am that, like, more than anything, that's what I am. So when I'm lifting the 225-pound deadlift bar, which is actually more than that, but when I'm doing that, I think your mindset plays a part. And like, it's the function that drives me, not the form of like how I'm going to look. Like, I feel like that's mostly something that's been very popular by CrossFit, right? Those people, while they look great, they're not doing stuff for the look. They're doing stuff for the function. And my function that I'm doing the things, and I know I've done stuff with you. It's directly related to judo and grappling, and it's awesome. And I think that's why and plus I do double the amount of karate as I do physical fitness. So that's also makes it easier to stay explosive and fast. But I know what you're saying.
I mean, so much of the lore around working out comes from the bodybuilding days, right? Back when Arnold wrote his first book, it exploded the world of exercise. And so many people still work out that way. Well, I want to get a big pump in my muscles. I want the mass of the muscle to get bigger. And it looks a certain way, and that's great. Not necessarily the thing that we're going for, right? We don't necessarily want big muscles. Nice when they're big, but the functionality is way more important than the appearance.
Yeah, agree. Speaking from vanity, I don't mind when I take my shirt off and Christine thinks I look great. Like, that feels good, right?
Right.
But still the driving force for me when I do these workouts is so that my martial arts, not only will my martial arts today be good, but also I like being a 51-year-old guy who can still do martial arts at a really high level. And I really feel confident that by doing my martial arts and doing this physical fitness, I'll be a 61-year-old guy who can still do their martial arts at a very high level. And I hope I can continue to do that. That I'm curious to see when I'm 71, what will my martial arts be like comparatively? I'm not at that point yet. So I'd say you could maybe speak to it. Like, I'm not at that point yet where the 51-year-old Randy could probably beat every age level of me going backwards at almost everything except for recovery. The 20-year-old guy could recover a lot faster than I can. But I know there's going to be a tipping point where there's going to come this day where I'm like, yeah, I couldn't beat that 50-year-old Randy today. Like, he'd beat me up or be faster than me, stronger than me. But I don't care. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if I know the answer in my own case. I know I'm a lot smarter, right, than I used to be. And that, even if I'm not physically more capable, I can beat myself on that basis. Man, you said something that I wanted to explore a little bit. I've had some of my Japanese teachers trained and lived into their 80s, but to a person, they had kind of bad health habits, right? They probably drank a little or smoked a little, maybe didn't have the best diets. I too am really curious about this. I mean, I think even if it's 5 years more. I mean, imagine that you could get to 90 and still be super active and be, if you can be 90 years old and 50% of your current self, that might not satisfy you, but it would be extraordinary in the world, right? I really think that's possible.
Yeah,
And then, in 10 years, when stem cells and stuff get organized a little bit better, beyond that is possible too, right? I mean, who
I know.
knows where the limit is?
Yeah, I know it was a guest on Rogan, and then I went and read some of the articles where leg strength is actually a direct corollary to longevity in life.
Hmm.
And that really makes sense to me because if your legs are strong, you can still get out of the house. You can still buy your own groceries, which means you're interacting with people, which means your mind is staying more active. So, um, if your diet's good and you're staying physically fit, short of something like a genetic disposition that takes you out or a car, and even then, I still think you're always going to be better at whatever age you are if you're physically fit,
Yeah.
right? Like you and
Yeah.
I talked about this. You at in your 60s, you said to me once, my dad was never in his entire life in the physical condition I'm in right now in my 60s. That's the same with my father. Well, he was by no means like obese but he smoked, he drank. He looked okay in a shirt, like
Hmm.
fairly muscular guy, but never like me. Like never, ever in his entire life.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's a point of pride, or it's a measure, right? To help you kind of get perspective. I still don't feel like I'm doing enough.
Yeah, there's always more to do. I agree.
Yeah.
Um,
My biggest single challenge is getting enough rest. I just don't have the patience for it, right? But I know that, right? I know that. I just don't like to rest. Um, yeah, it just makes me so curious. If you could organize your sleep well, if you hydrate well and eat whole foods, you keep your leg strength up, and then I think I've gone on my rant about fish oil before. If you have sufficient omega 3s, not only does it help you have a longer, your body lives longer, you have more life in your years, but it has this fantastic other effect statistically, which is it makes you less prone to disasters and accidents because you're more cognitively functional, right? Um, Imagine that. Like, where's the magic there? That's maybe something we should talk about at some point, or pull a nutritionist onto this show. Where's the magic there? What's possible in the world of nutrition?
yeah,
It's amazing. The
yeah, we
potential
should
is
definitely
huge.
pull somebody on and talk about that because I eat pretty clean, but I'd like to learn a lot more about that. And
Yeah.
I take fish oil because you told me to, and you gave me those things. And I notice a difference when I do and when I don't. I actually legitimately notice a difference if I don't take fish oil for a few days.
Yep.
I,
So do I.
I, I notice it.
Yep.
Hey, I have a question for you. What do you consider fitness to be? What are the components of fitness for you? I have a kind of like a modality that I even ask my students to assess for themselves. And I don't know if you want me to tell you that first or if you want to
Yeah.
just.
Yeah. Let me hear yours. It sounds like it's a little bit more formalized than mine.
Yeah, so I always ask people, whether it's in the fitness class or whether it's in martial arts even, just three simple things, and then you can get deep on each one of them. How's your cardiovascular fitness? How is your flexibility? And what is your strength like? And so then, you know, you can get into like, okay, I want explosive strength, I want muscular endurance. Flexibility to me is kind of flexibility, but do you want to just be, put your head up, but do you want to be relaxed and flexible? Do you want to be strong and flexible? And then, so strength, flexibility, cardiovascular, can you run? Can you do a certain activity, run, skip, swim, lift this weight for a certain period of time? And how long can you sustain that? And then I asked them to assess, right? If you can lift a car, don't spend your time lifting cars. If you can lift a car, but you can't touch your toes and you can't run to the end of the parking lot, stop lifting cars and start running to the end of the parking lot and trying to touch your toes. So that for me is my basic assessment of what physical fitness is for somebody.
Yeah. I don't know that I would change that structure much at all. I think the notion of stamina, right? Cardiovascular strength and agility or adaptability, right? Those are kind of in my Venn diagram of strength. And then I guess this veers into mental stuff a little bit, but the idea that you should be able to scale. I like the fact that I spend a lot of time thinking about meditation and relaxing. And so I can scale my relaxation level better, physically, muscularly, a lot better than most people I train with. That's a great skill to have, right? So you have these parameters you learn, and then you develop skill sets within them, right? Or if I want to get a lot stronger, I know how to do it. My body kind of remembers, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think those broad categories are great, and then you can kind of move them around depending on what your outcome is or your desired outcome.
Do you feel like this is something I often think about? And I know it's probably vastly different. I don't want to gender or age categorize people, but generally speaking, I feel like, ladies, I encourage them to continue to do more weight bearing exercises as they go. And most of the dudes that I train with, the guys, I ask them, you need to be more flexible. Like you're probably going to stay stronger. You've got more muscle mass than, so, do more stretching and do more stamina type exercise. Don't spend your time lifting stuff and not being able to touch your chest or touch your toes.
Yeah, there are definitely aspects that people will bring to the game that they're good enough at. And most of them bias toward that. They want to work in those areas. But if they really want to be well-rounded and have longevity in the martial arts, they got to develop the other ones. We are officially out of time. So what do you want to do to wrap this up?
I think we're gonna just be disciplined, Sensei. Like we always 30 minutes and out.
Yeah.
I guess what I want to do to wrap it up is just say thank you for doing this. And I want to say I know you and Sensei Legacy are gonna do some, or maybe you and just somebody, even not a host from Punch Kick Choke Chat, because we are trying to build this brand and this platform for the benefit of the people who are watching it. We're getting lots of positive feedback right now. So yeah, if you are enjoying this and you could help us, we're not looking for you to pay anything. None of us are getting a Porsche out of this anytime soon. Yeah. So please check out our platforms. We've just gone through a lot of work. We've got a new website now, www.punchkickchokechat.com. Go check that out. You can find all the episodes there, our merch, pictures, events. Also, we got a new Instagram account. We got a new Facebook account. The YouTube channel's still up. So anything you can do to help spread the love that we're trying to spread would be beneficial, I think. So that's what I'd like to go out on. What do you got, a final thought, Sensei, you want to go out on?
Yeah, man. Well, listen, you and I are obviously geeked about this stuff. A lot of people in our world are geeked about it. We love the martial arts. We're connected to a lot of folks in the martial arts world. We're doing some cool stuff. Anybody who's watching this, if you're interested in martial arts, you want to develop it more, feel free to reach out to us. We eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff, and we love promoting it. And if we can help our viewers in any way, just reach out to us. We'd love to help build this whole thing.
Awesome message, Sensei. Thanks,
Thanks for
everybody.
the conversation. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.